What is going on, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we're going to get right into the news. Chilling moment, deranged Putin, because they always have to put an adjective there, oversees massive nuclear strike on the West during terrifying WW3 drills. Now, if you did not know, there are multiple nuclear exercises going on right now, as if we didn't need enough drama in the world. Of course, Vlad is running one, which I will talk about, and the U.S. and NATO are running one at the same time. Now, they say that this is routine. We've talked about this over the last couple days, in fact, over the last couple weeks, because this was in preparedness. But a lot of people believe that, obviously, drills and exercises are also a good way to cover if you are going to do something. With all of the other talk and all of the other points that people are connecting, a lot of people are freaked out about this. Is it just routine? Is it practice? Is it practice makes perfect? Or is it actually getting ready for something that they may know about? They have evacuated multiple parts of UKR as far as, and by the way, I mean by they, Vlad's allies have told all of their people to get out. Not our allies, their allies. So some sort of call was had, obviously, over the last couple weeks. It said Putin has ordered drills involving Russia's nuclear forces in which they simulated a massive strike on the West. The barrage of ballistic and cruise missiles fired comes as U.S. officials warned of troubling developments involving Russia's nuclear arsenal. It says Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said that the drills, codenamed Grom or Thunder, simulated a massive nuclear strike by Russia in retaliation for an attack on its soils. It said that video released by the Russian military-run Zvezda website showed an armed forces personnel in front of computers launching a Yars ballistic missile. Other footage showed a Siniva intercontinental ballistic missile being fired from a submarine in the Barents Sea and a Tu-95 bomber that launched cruise missiles. So they actually showed three different things. That video is actually attached on the website. You'll be able to access that along with this article. So you can go see that for yourself. It's quite creepy. It says the Kremlin said that all tasks set for the exercise were fulfilled and that all of the missiles that were test fired reached their designated targets. Now, this is actually going to be a longer, drawn-out thing. This first part was the actual video that they released of the drills. There are believed to be more drills going on, but it's obviously showing that they can launch from air, from sea, and, of course, from land. It says the United States has said that Moscow informed about the drills in advance, which they say are routine, but now with everything else going on, the timing of it is pretty impeccable. So we'll talk about this and everything else on today's show. Today is going to be a really, really great show, so stick around. We'll have a full bibliography here in a second. We'll be right back. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Of course, the picture you're looking at the screen is actually a screenshot from that video that we were just mentioning. It says there are growing fears that Vladimir Putin could detonate a nuke as Moscow continues to wildly swing its nuclear saber. The tyrant is becoming increasingly frustrated as his troops have been hit with a series of disastrous defeats across the front line of UKR. There are concerns that if Vlad finds himself boxed into a corner, he would resort to using nuclear weapons. Now, remember, Xi is a no-limits partner with him. A lot of people are saying that he is failing miserably. Myself and others believe that he has not even put his full force of military in yet. Why else would right away, almost instantly, for a conflict against somewhere like UKR, pull in conscripts? Why did they bring in conscripts so early? Why did they grab people off the street and essentially hand them 100-year-old rifles? First of all, the fact that they were using 100-year rifles, obviously they know that the rest of the world is very uneducated and thinks that they're just completely beyond, back in time, like they're behind 30 years. But they have, in fact, spent half their GDP on their military. So they do have advanced gear. They have advanced tech. So for the fact that they are actually sending in 100-year-old rifles and making it so obvious that all of our media reported it, it's almost kind of like, it seems to me like a trap. Like, here's our Ganda that you don't even know that you're reporting for us. I don't know. That's my opinion. I don't think they've used a lot of their really, really high-tech gear. And remember, they also have partnerships with Xi, and Xi also has some insane high-tech gear as well. It's not like the smart people only live in the U.S. and NATO countries. There are smart people all over the world. There's inventors all over the world. And there are traders all over the world. So those traders go give our secrets to somebody else. So we'll be talking about this and many other stories today. If you have never seen my channel, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com. You can get notifications directly from there. We are simulcasting on, of course, YouTube as our main hub. We have Rumble and, of course, our DLive family watching right now. If you want to get to all of the articles, every single article, tweet, video, picture, document, we make sure to have a source for. Just go over to marfooglenews.com and you'll find Drilling for the Unthinkable. It's all easily organized by thumbnail, so just look for today's thumbnail. Practice makes perfect. Drilling for the Unthinkable. Once you click on that, you will see that every single article, tweet, video, picture, document is here. That way you know exactly where it was sourced from. On top of that, all over on the right side, there are affiliates. If you miss one of the product mentions and you want to go get one and support the channel and get a discount, those are all over on the right. If you want to donate a car, Cars for Heroes is over on the right. And then down at the bottom is the overflow. All the stuff that could not fit into a 2-hour show is going to go down there. So make sure to hit that every single day. There's a ton of news that you should be watching and reading right down there. There's videos. There's all sorts of interesting stuff. We'll talk about that at the very end. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So we're going to get right into the news. We're going to touch on some of the other stuff later on, and we're going to go over to the chat here in a minute. But Dex, do you want to talk about the creepy deepfake of Elon Musk tied up and held hostage? This went viral.
So it seems that these marketers are taking advantage of the deep fake technology, and they created yet again another video. In this case, a video representing Elon tied up, looking like he's, as you said, been taken hostage. They were doing it more so to get attention. They really want him to join their board, but it really shows how much can be done with some of this technology. I think there's a screenshot or a picture on the next screen, and if you're looking at it at first, you're like, yeah, it may not be him, but actually it does look a little good. It looks pretty close to being, to looking like him. So I don't know if you got that picture or not, but yeah, that's the tech they're using. It's pretty crazy. This is not the first time. It's happened a few other times, but just keep in mind that these videos can be made and they can look very realistic. And you can think it is literally somebody speaking and acting like they're, like they're really on a camera, but they're really not. It's all made up. It's all make-believe.
Unfortunately, the screenshot they took looks more like Butthead, or I don't know. Is that Butthead or Beavis? But what I will say is seeing it live and how they talk and how they're speaking, that's what makes it really creepy. Now, I also saw a clip recently that was from America's Got Talent. I don't know if any of you saw this, but there was a company called Metaphysics, and it was the weirdest America's Got Talent audition because it was two guys that came out and they said, we started a company called Metaphysics, and we're actually going to have this singer come out. The singer that came out was a well-known singer that actually had already been on America's Got Talent, and they were like, hey, you're a good singer. We know you, and you came on here. What are you doing here? He said, oh, well, I'm going to sing for you, but we have a kind of a special kind of thing. They said, oh, well, we'll ask you no more. They bring out a special gigantic camera, and what they do is they videotape, they put it in front, so the audience is only seeing him on the big screen, and it's live, and what is in front of him is a giant camera, so you can't really see who's right in front of it. What ends up happening is they go to the screen, and this gentleman starts singing, which is an amazing singer, and what it's showing on the screen is that Simon Cowell is actually singing it, and he's doing it live. Now, this may seem stupid, but what you have to realize is that means that not only are they doing a deepfake, they're doing a deepfake live. This is one of the scariest things ever, and I don't think people realize how scary this is going to get. Think about how little we trust in everything that we see. Imagine when it's going to get into the hands of regular people, where to the point where you don't know what kind of video, even if you see that person themselves saying it, then how do we know if it's actually them? And that's the big question with this. And then Dex, I don't know, I didn't send you that clip. I should have. But that clip is pretty scary, and I think it's actually better than this one, and it's done live. So imagine what they could do with that. If somebody hacked into a police station and showed our president saying, there's 40 nuclear missiles heading towards us or something, it could cause widespread panic. Imagine if they were trying to frame somebody, they could show that person doing something horrible. They could say, put a fake hunter face on somebody and basically make them look like they're doing unfortunate things in hotels. Who knows? Which, again, we all know those are real. But Dex, how fast is this coming?
Well, Adam, I think I don't know if it's how fast it's coming. I think it's already here. And I wouldn't be surprised if there have been instances where we don't know it's been used. It's one thing to showcase it on America's Got Talent and what's going on there. It's another thing where, three-letter agencies, government organizations, leaderships in different governments use this technology to perform or do things. And, it wouldn't surprise me if it's already been done and it's already here, especially if we have it at the sort of civilian America's Got Talent level. That they've had it, at the, the government level, so to speak, a lot sooner.
Yeah, if it's on America's Got Talent. And by the way, YouTube channels like Corridor Crew, they have done deepfakes with Tom Cruise. And they were better than some of the ones that I've seen. And that was a few years ago. If a YouTube channel with a couple great computers, everything that the public can grab, if they can do it and, reasonably well, that means almost anybody could do this. That in combination with if enough of your voice is out there, if enough angles of your face, say if there's a million different pictures of you out and about, celebrities especially or politicians, then they can use that. They can put it into an AI program and then basically let it run. But on top of that, there are things like, I think it wasn't Songbird, it was Raven. If you guys in chat want to correct me, there is basically a program that takes voice samples and does the same thing with voice. So if you start combining that, and that isn't something I've seen. I've seen an actor that sounds a lot like Tom Cruise be Tom Cruise, or I've seen somebody that sounds close, do the deepfake, or I've seen people's celebrity voices imitated, but I've never seen both of those combined. Once you combine those, you basically have that person on video saying whatever you want them to say. And that is really, really scary. People should be scared of that. That is on top of all of the other fears with, of course, AI and everything that it's doing. All right, and by the way, thank you, everybody, for popping in. It looks like we have lots of great people over on DLive. Vicky K, Skyhouse, Isabel Swan, thank you for following. Sorry, Vicky K, Kimbria, Chance Paladin, thank you for modding. Big Fizz, and then Heartbroken Survivor is in the house. Glad you're doing okay. And then Renegade Petey. And, of course, Skyhouse, again, thank you for coming tonight. U.S., Japan, South Korea warn of unparalleled response if North Korea holds a nuclear test. So they're basically saying even if they just test, they're going to respond. It says Tokyo, October 26th, the United States, Japan, and South Korea warned on Wednesday that an unparalleled scale of response would be warranted if NK conducts a 7th nuclear bomb test. Washington and its allies believe that NK could be about to resume nuclear bomb testing for the first time since 2017. It says, quote, we agreed that an unparalleled scale of response would be necessary if North Korea pushes ahead with its 7th nuclear test. South Korean Vice President Foreign Minister Cho Han-dong told a news conference in Tokyo. Cho is speaking alongside his Japanese and U.S. counterparts, Vice Foreign Minister Takeo Mori and Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman. It says, quote, we urge North Korea to refrain from further provocations, Sherman said, calling them reckless and deeply destabilizing for the region. Anything that happens there, such as a North Korean nuclear test, has implications for the security of the entire world. So they're putting some huge words out there. We have seen so many times where they do whatever the heck they want, and they say, oh, well, there's going to be, a response. They're super vague with their, an unparalleled scale. They always try to make it sound as scary as possible, and then when it actually comes up, they're like, wow, we're going to add another sanction. North Korea is already sanctioned into a hole. They are basically a hermit country. They are to themselves. Obviously, they're working with Xi. Obviously, they're working with Vlad and other countries behind the scenes, and who knows? It could be working with the U.S. and 3-letter agencies. We don't know. But what we do know is that they do a whole lot of black market stuff to keep afloat, and they do a ton of it. They're probably producing stuff that can't be produced other places in the world. Who knows? They could have made stuff that everybody, got that everybody that got over the last couple of years. Who knows? It could have been a whole big lie in itself. But with this, they're saying that they're going to respond even if they do a test. So Dex, if they do a test, even if they do just another test, which every time I hear test, are they actually using a nuke and blowing it up somewhere, or are they just launching a missile? I guess if it's a full-on nuclear test, does that mean they actually hit something with it and blow it up?
Well, the tests that they've done with actual nukes have been done underground, and they've had a long history of doing that. If they are testing the delivery mechanism, then that would be the missile, and those are the ICBMs or the short range, depending on what they've done. And they've got a long history of doing that too. I think, the question I have when I listen to the rhetoric that's coming from those allied nations against NK is they're trying to make it sound really strong, as if you're not going to do this because we're going to have an unparalleled, meaning, unequal or, significant response. But I kind of, in my mind, wonder, what do they really mean? Because something significant would be more so than what we've done in the past. And all we seem to do in the past is when they do something, we just run a drill up and down, out in front of the neighborhood, so to speak, right? Are they really thinking they're going to do something besides, run another drill? Are they really thinking, and I just wonder, because when we make these types of statements, when you don't hold up to them, it just makes you look weaker, right? And we saw this with Vlad in UKR, like, well, if you do this, then I'm going to have to do that. Well, he never does it. He just keeps, falling back on his words. There's been so many lines crossed. So I just wonder, if we set these lines, do we really make ourselves look weak when we don't actually do anything about it?
Especially when it's time and time and time again. With everything else that's going on in the world, it's kind of crazy to think that there's all this rhetoric being thrown around, and it's almost like they want a war. I don't know. What do you guys think? And then U.S. officials had a secret oil deal with the Saudis, or so they thought. It said after Saudi leaders pushed to slash oil production despite a visit by President Mr. Bai, it says American officials have been left fuming that they were duped. Really? It says as President Biden was planning on a politically risky trip to Saudi Arabia this month, this summer, his top aides thought that they had struck a secret deal to boost oil production through the end of the year, an arrangement that could have helped justify breaking a campaign pledge to shun the kingdom and its crown prince. It didn't work out that way. President B, of course, went through with the trip, but earlier this month, Saudi Arabia and Russia steered a group of oil-producing countries in voting to slash oil production by 2 million barrels per day, the opposite of the outcome the administration thought it had secured as the Democratic Party struggles to deal with inflation and high gas prices heading into the November elections. Sounds like somebody else may have called them first. It says the move led angry B administration officials to reassess America's relationship with the kingdom and produced a flurry of accusatory statements between the two governments, including a charge by the White House that the Saudi Arabia was helping Vlad in its conflict in UKR. Lawmakers who had been told about the trip's benefits and classified briefings and other conversations that included details of the oil deal, which has not been previously disclosed and was supposed to lead to a surge in production between September and December, have been left fuming that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman duped the administration. So I don't know if this is what really happened, but it sounds like they screwed. This was supposed to bring all of the gas prices down right before people went to the box, and it didn't. If this is true, if they really had this deal going and they thought this was going to come out, it reminds me of the show like House of Cards or something where, these things backfire on them and somebody screws them over and it looks really bad for them. I could totally seeing them do something temporarily just to boost up things and, take down gas prices so then they can brag about it in a press conference. And then everybody's like, oh, that is right. I've paid, 40 cents less for gas the last couple of weeks. And that's because of him. Because, of course, you take responsibility for all of the good things and you blame all of the bad things on the previous president. That's basically how it works. At least that's how I see it. Dex, do you think that that's what happened? Do you think somebody stepped in and screwed them? Seems like there's multiple powers.
It certainly looks that way. It certainly looks like we didn't have the power that we normally wield over there. And that's quite surprising for as much as we do, as much money as we spend, and as much security and equipment and everything else we provide. So I can understand why the administration would be upset, because status quo has been, they pretty much do whatever we want. And we don't necessarily take advantage of it, I wouldn't think, but they're not going to bow down forever. But at this point, it seems like this was more of one of those scenarios that didn't seem like we were asking for too much. And it was really a slap in the face. So this could be the point in time when people look back and say that was where the relationship between the U.S. and the ME countries, specifically Saudi and UAE, diverted from the long-standing relationship that they've had for so many years. This could be that point, I think, and we'll have to see how it plays out. And we're going to talk a little bit more in the next article, specifically about what the energy minister said. So
you can go right over it. This is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the Saudis, the energy minister came out and he basically is blasting those, and he's not going to name anybody. So he's purposely not naming the United States because he knows not to. But you can tell that's who he's pointing the finger at. He's basically saying those that are giving up their supplies, like we did, because we took millions of barrels of our emergency supplies and we released them into the market, and we did that to manipulate the prices. So we did that to bring the price down. So when our administration released all those barrels, and then they did them again just recently, released a whole bunch of barrels out of our strategic reserve, he's basically blasting them, saying you guys are, whoever's doing that is foolish, because they're taking what should be an emergency stash and they're wasting their emergency stash for the sole purpose of manipulating the market. In other words, manipulating the market for this event that's coming up in November. And then he also goes on to say that I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to be very sorry about doing that, which is sort of an underhanded way or an indirect way of saying, Yeah, we're definitely not going to release a lot more oil, and it's going to make your life even harder because your strategic reserves are now lower. So, in other words, you may get this short-term dip, but the bump after is going to be astronomical.
So basically, even if your prices go down right now or in the next few weeks or in the next month, they're going to go right back up, and they're going to hit higher than they have probably than we've ever seen before. So just remember that when you go to that box and fill something in, right? So it seems like obviously we know that there's multiple powers. Some believe that there's just one group, running the entire planet. I personally think that there are at least two huge groups, and they're fighting against each other. And most people believe that a lot of our politicians are in the pockets of other countries or in other people's. We know that a lot of them. Think about how much money is involved in politics. That's why when somebody like T-Man came along, they're like, he's not a politician. People wanted somebody that wasn't a politician because we know so much. We've seen so many scandals. We are now desensitized to almost every politician having some sort of scandal that it's like, oh, well, he only has 8 scandals. His opponent has 12. So isn't it funny that when we go into to picking one of two people, we're like, well, they're the lesser of two evils. How many times did you hear that in the last 3 elections? So it's just it's kind of funny that we now are so jaded against politicians that essentially we're like, well, he's a demon, but he's not the devil. I'm going to go for the demon instead of the devil. We all know they're bad. So we'll see what happens there. By the way, thank you for people popping in very early into the show. Emily Hillard, thank you for your support and your super sticker before the show even started, I believe. Kay Parker Fraser, thank you for stopping by again tonight. I always recognize your name. For whatever reason, I had a friend named Katie Parker, and she was really, really cool. Love Adam, Dex, and Mods. Great team. Thank you so much. And Liz Smith, thank you so much for stopping by as well. Thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate all of you guys. And then Allie Baker, I believe I missed you last night. Maybe meant to prepare us for what's to come. Our last night's show got cut off a little bit early, at least before our shoutro and before the web-only stuff. So make sure to go check out yesterday's web-only stuff. We didn't get a chance to really go over that. There's a lot of really great stuff there. And then before we move on to Blinken says that China rejects status quo of Taiwan situation, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. If you have been looking at ways to actually keep your cars, your generators protected, your home, your ham radios, your boats, your motorcycles against EMP and CME, and you didn't know that you can protect these, you can go over to EMP Shield at marfooglenews.com/EMP and get a device that can ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device. This can protect against all 3 phases of an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, and it can protect against a Carrington level plus event. If a CME happens, which it will, it's a matter of when, not if, then your car will get that last 10 miles home. If you're stuck at work when it happens, your home will be protected within 250 linear feet of where it's wired in, which is, most average size homes. If your generator is wired in with one of these, your generator is going to start right up. So that is a really great thing. If you have boats, if you're planning on bugging out on a boat or a yacht, then you might want to have one of these on your boat motors. Again, make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. You'll get $50 off per device, and you'll be supporting our channel. We've negotiated for you a grandfathered in discount, and we get a commission. That way, we are financially supported. We're reinforcing our growth, and you are actually supporting independent media and getting an awesome product that you keep for the rest of your life. So again, make sure to go check that out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Dex, do you want to talk about Blinken? We've heard a lot about Blinken for the last 3 weeks, and for obvious reasons.
So it's become clear that I guess the terminology that they're using is the status quo of Taiwan. In other words, what if we just kept everything the same? Like, this whole one policy and they still operate and do things the way they want to do it. But we don't take it any further than that. We just keep doing what we've been doing for the last, so many years. That would be the status quo. And he's basically come out and saying that Xi has absolutely rejected that idea. And that obviously for other reasons that are part of his, meaning Xi's plans for growth and power and control, he is no longer willing to just allow the status quo to remain. He is absolutely going to take Taiwan. And it's part of, his new strategy. And especially with the time being that now that he has basically he's set for life because he's got another 10 years, a whole nother decade. I don't remember how old he is, but that's for the most part, he's in. He's the rest of his time serving is going to be, as the leader of that country. Now's the time. He doesn't have anything left to risk. If he messed up, he could have risked getting his position again. So now he's got it. Now's the time, and it looks very much like that. The whole notion of could we just negotiate and keep things the way they were, et cetera, all that's out the window. Xi's coming. He wants Taiwan.
I have a question. Is Anthony Blinken is he a short guy, or is that just a really tall podium? I don't know. It looks a little weird. Oh, hold on. I'm on my Anthony Blinken setting. There we go. And former U.S. Marine Corps fighter pilot who worked in China is arrested in Australia. This is, I think, the 9th. No, actually, it might. I remember like 14, but there has been a number of these folks that have been arrested that are from China. It says former U.S. Marine Corps fighter pilot who worked in China is arrested in Australia. So most of the other ones were Chinese citizens that were being arrested for some sort of espionage, spying, information, warfare type thing. This is actually a former U.S. Marine Corps fighter pilot that it was apparently helping. It says Australia has arrested a former U.S. Marine Corps fighter pilot following a request from Washington. Officials in Canberra said Tuesday as Western governments scrambled to investigate a report that China has been poaching retired military personnel, which obviously there was Fugel fam that was talking about this last week as well. In fact, like 4 weeks ago, somebody was talking about this, how people were getting approached in the military and they were basically getting an offer, like saying, hey, come work for us and we'll make you slightly richer temporarily. It says Daniel Edmund Duggan appeared in court in South Wales on Friday. Judicial records show, quote, an individual was arrested on the 21st of October pursuant to a request from the United States of America for their provisional arrest. It says that the Australian Attorney General's Department said in a statement, as the matter is before the courts, it would not be appropriate to comment further. So he was doing something. Duggan is scheduled to appear in court again in November. An aviation source told Reuters that the FBI sought Duggan because he had worked in China. His lawyer told Reuters that he could not comment. Under a treaty with Australia, the United States has 60 days following the arrest to apply for Duggan's extradition. Duggan ran a business called Top Gun Australia. He's a corny guy, isn't he? Which billed itself as the country's premier adventure flight company. On the company's webpage, Duggan described himself as a former U.S. Marine Corps officer of over 12 years. He flew missions in support of Operation Southern Watch from Kuwait and the USS Boxer. It says, as a highly trained fighter pilot, he flew Harrier jump jets off the aircraft carriers tactically around the globe. So this guy was a real-life, Tom Cruise or what do you call him? Iceman or something, right? He was Iceman. He was an ace. But apparently he may be a traitor as well, or he might be doing some stuff that he shouldn't be. Australia launched an investigation last week into what the defense minister called disturbing reports that China has been hiring retired Western Air Force pilots to train its military. Sounds like they're trying to prepare their military to fight our military, and they want to know exactly what is going on in our military. This is something that is really obvious, and you guys know my opinion. We are already in WW3. I see the big picture. I don't see how people don't. That China is getting ready for a massive conflict with the U.S. They only believe that they can beat us is if they do it at the same time as Vlad. And it just so happens that's a factual conflict going on. And that is escalating. And all the proper steps are happening for Vlad to continue on. And like I said, everybody's saying that Vlad's completely out of everything and all of this other stuff. Remember that all the media that's coming to us, remember who has their hands in that. Remember who has power and money and owns huge swaths of the media, even the news. Maybe one of our adversaries, and their No Limits partner. So I just think it's kind of funny that all this information is coming out, making him look, like he's completely backwards and they're completely failing. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. If you do, I'd love to hear your opinion on it. But as far as this goes, it looks like there's a whole lot of spying, and then it also looks like they're getting everybody ready to really hate that country and that government. There's a lot of messaging saying, this is our enemy right now. So it's getting people ready. It's I guess desensitizing us. Well, not desensitizing us. Dex, what would be a good word for this? Like they're preparing us.
I keep going back to their building sentiment, and they're changing the sentiment. Like they're sort of shifting the public opinion, or at least bringing light to the public opinion in a way that makes you become more, in favor of, or at least have a negative opinion of Xi and what's happening within their country. And we've seen that over the years, but we've seen it just ramp up so much in the last, several weeks, story after story after story.
Yep. It's almost twice, at least 2 a week for the last month. I believe there was 3 in 1 week a couple weeks ago. So obviously they are pointing us towards something. Meanwhile, do we have some of the Darrell Brooks stuff in our web only? The Darrell Brooks stuff, if you remember, we covered the guy who drove through the parade. And by the way, at that point, we were right in the middle of all of the other cultural stuff that was going on. And they basically would not say the driver's name. They wouldn't even say, Darrell Brooks. They wouldn't. Essentially, they said the vehicle. I think it was like a Ford Explorer. They're like, Ford Explorer, ran through people and stuff. And everybody was like, well, is the Ford Explorer going to get, a guilty charge? Is the Ford Explorer going to be arrested? Like, is this Ford Explorer still on the loose? Because at that point, they didn't want to say that, they didn't want to say who it was. I think that there was a issue there. After a lot of people called it out and all of Twitter went nuts on that, they finally did. Now people are infatuated with his case. And we know this because it's all over social media. Everybody's watching clips of this. It's kind of like how the Johnny Depp and Heard case infatuated people forever. Mr. Brooks is taking his own stand, and he's being his own lawyer, and it's the worst, shite show you've ever seen. The guy is not... to me, it's just absolutely... it's a circus, right? And people get distracted with that kind of stuff. People get distracted with everything else because most people, and I'm not talking about most of you, but most people do not want to think about any of this actually going down. People don't want to think about World War III. They don't want to think that anything may, happen to us, as far as it's that same mentality that it's never going to happen to me, or that doesn't happen here. That's never going to happen in a neighborhood like mine. How could it happen in a neighborhood like this? We have a great neighborhood. Nothing like that happens. We don't have crime here. It's always the place that doesn't have crime that has crime. It says the U.S. Army is struggling to find the recruits it needs to win the fight over the future. There's a lot of problems, by the way. They're not hitting recruiting numbers in almost any branch. It says the U.S. Army is spending more than ever before on technology to replace an aging military infrastructure, from artificial intelligence to new fighting machines, moving 1980s tanks off the field of battle. But the Secretary of the U.S. Army says that the nation risks falling behind in the race against China if it can't recruit enough Americans into the service to be trained on how national defense is being remade for future conflicts. It says we can develop all of the most high-tech new weapons systems like we are working on right now, but if we don't have the kinds of talented, motivated individuals to use those weapon systems, we won't be able to do what we need to do. Dex, it almost sounds like they're saying we're not going to have enough people for this huge, massive fight.
Certainly the numbers are just are really down. And when you look at not even the people that they're actually recruiting that are of recruiting age, when you look at the ages below, their interest, because these would be kids that would be growing up in a couple of years and being of age. Even their interest is very low. And then there's certain things about health now with health being an issue, whether it be obesity or other things like that have also put a damper on the potential numbers of people that could be, recruits or want to join. So sentiment's down, and numbers are down. Probably our population growth is down. That's also another factor too, right? So when you put all of these things together, in addition to the other weird stuff that's been going on, that a lot of people become more polarized to, their opinions and what may or may not, they may or may not be subjected to. You add all of that in, and it doesn't make it easy to grow a military, which gets a little scary, because if you think about having the need to have a certain size military, especially if we get into a major conflict, whether that is orchestrated by the powers that be or whether that's organic and really just happening, that only leaves one solution, and that's, a draft. And nobody likes that. Nobody wants to see that happen. It's, it's been done in a couple of the last two major events, but, that's not the path we want to go down. And I think, there was a time when, serving in the military, and actually those who serve in the military are phenomenal. And it's always been sort of like this pride to do it. And we need to get back to that, place in time where our children and our youth that are growing up look at that service and say, yes, that's something I can do. I can make a career out of it, or I can use it as a stepping stone to get into, better education, or, maybe I can use it as a point in my life to sort of grow up, right? All those things that, it seems like we used to have as a country. We used to have a lot of pride in that. I think we've lost it at the youth level right now.
Are you kidding? I mean, like, there's no, they on TikTok, where all of these kids are, where the youth are, the 24 and under, they're watching TikTok videos of actual military members. And I don't know how they allow this, but they have a sergeant walking around recording people and be like, why'd you join the military? I don't know, man. It sucks. Oh, it's like, why would you allow that to go off base? It's like, if you understand, all these young kids are seeing like all of these soldiers that are willing to put their face on the internet and say, oh yeah, it sucks, I regret it, it's my worst decision ever. It's like, no wonder you're not hitting your recruitment goals. And by the way, there was a video that did go viral recently, and it was high school in 2002, just 20 years ago, which is crazy to think that was 20 years ago. But that was around my high school age, 98 through 2002 high school. And it was before social media. We had computers. We were on computers. We were, you play Oregon Trail or whatever games were. That was a little after Oregon Trail, but it wasn't a thing. You actually talked to people. You may have had like AOL or something like that. Instant message. Even instant messages, like, were the pixels had to load. So you're like, oh, I'm going to the store. Okay. Then you type back and it takes a second and your 56K starts wheeling up. There was none of this. looking at how in this short amount of time, how social media has changed everybody. Not only us. I mean, everybody's hooked on their phones now. But do you think it's a positive change? I can literally see the next conflict. You want the 18, 19-year-olds on the front line? Hold on, I got to get this. Oh, hold on. You want to watch a cat video? Yeah, why are we even doing this? Who wants to do that? Dude, check this out. This is lit. This is fire emoji, bro. Quit shooting at each other. Dude, come on. Let's watch the Darrell Brooks trial. Dude's nuts. Oh, you know what? I got to go back to base. I forgot my charger. Hey, do you have a charger? Oh, POWs are treated like crap. They don't even have chargers here. Do you have an outlet? What's your Wi-Fi password? Vladimir Putin watches Russian nuclear test after preparing for enemy attack. So this is a test, but people have to realize it's getting really, really insane all over the world. And most people are going to say, you know, this is all saber rattling and that it's all BS. But it's getting worse and worse and worse. Yeah, Rob Mills says we're doomed. Yeah, think about it. If you have teenagers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's basically this. It showed Vlad watching the Russian military carry out nuclear testing in chilling new images. The defense ministry in Moscow claimed that the exercises were being undertaken to prepare for a possible enemy attack on Russia. Notice all of their stuff basically says that they believe they are going to be attacked. Going back to the very beginning of this, it almost looked like they were setting up defenses, not offenses. I don't know if you remember when this first started, before they even went in, they set up these, what was it, S-400? Is that what they're called, Dex? The S-400 defense system? Is that right?
Yeah, and 400 and 500.
Yeah, no. 400's the older ones, right? They set up the 400, 500, 600, whatever they're called. They set up those in Moscow, or about 60 miles outside of Moscow. And it was like, why are they setting them up 700 miles away from the border unless they're expecting somebody to come in? And it made people question, like, what is actually going on here? But I just wonder if something happens, or they could make something happen in their own country, or UKR could do something to them, and, you know, they end up going in and taking out, Russia. But will that happen? Probably not, because they have no limits partner over their G. So I think it's what it's going to end up going down is that we are going to get in a two-front conflict with both at the same time. The Taiwan, everybody was thinking, oh, it's going to happen sometime. It's going to happen in 2027. We called BS on that. Now the information is saying that it's most likely going to happen soon. And even one official said just recently, a few days ago, that it will happen inside 2022 or inside 2023. He said it wouldn't even be crazy if it was inside this year. Look at this whole thing. Vlad just about a week ago or week and a half ago said, oh, this mobilization will be over in 2 weeks. And that was right before all of this stuff, right before the exercises, right before they moved 300,000 troops in position, right before they moved their Su-27 nuclear bombers. I think that's the kind that they have. They moved their nuclear bombers in place. We have our 101st Airborne Division, which hasn't been deployed in Europe in 80 years, right there in Poland. And then, of course, on the other side, I believe of Odessa, you have the Russian troops. And then we have our B-52s flying over Europe. We had European viewers actually send us videos of 4 B-52s flying over. As you guys know, you might have saw that call. But I mean, this is getting insane. Or actually, no, it wasn't a call. It was a chat person that actually sent us a video to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. Which, by the way, if you have information or if you have a video that you think everybody should see, if your Ring doorbell camera caught an asteroid coming in or something, send it to us. I would love to see it and show it on the show. Dex, with this drill, obviously if you watch the video, we can't show the video because it's copyrighted by other news agencies, but It is pretty chilling just seeing it actually being played out. It's one thing to, talk about it, but when you actually see them testing and launching things out of submarines and doing all this, it kind of gives your brain this message like it makes it more real, right?
It certainly does. But the one thing that sort of struck me were these pictures or these images of him sitting at this table, this command and control type table where he's looking at everything. And I think there's some in this article that you can show. There's one with him and another person. There's one with him by himself. No, not that one. Keep going. But my point, the striking thing for me is that there's a little bit of symbology here, in a sense, not symbology, but he's sitting alone. He's all alone, right? There's nobody else there. This table is designed for like 10 leaders to sit around when they're doing something like this, and it's just him. There was one other picture where it was him and one other person. That might have been his defense leader. I can't remember. But anyway, the point being, I just thought it was just so odd that he's all alone, sitting there going through these. And I don't know if it's because he's in hiding or if it's just that nobody else, if there's any truth to the statements that they tell us about how he is sort of alone, and a lot of his cabinet or other leadership is not on board with him. The other interesting thing in this article, though, Adam, is this, and you and I were talking about this before the show, that this conversation or these talking points that have been coming out about that he has been doing these attempted launches and they've been failing. So some of the tests that he wanted to run didn't work. Some of the nukes he apparently wanted to test, not necessarily launch and hit a target, but maybe, test off in other areas, whether they were delivery vehicles or the actual warheads themselves. They were being reported that they failed. He didn't. He has had a week long or 2 weeks long failures, a string of failures in this. So that's kind of an interesting point of view. But at the same time, we don't know that for sure. Sort of take it with a grain of salt because that is coming from the opposite side. So nobody's going to be cheering him on from the opposite side.
No, and of course they say that the U.S. has had all sorts of failures. One thing that was interesting that I don't believe a lot of people knew, and I did not realize there was a big difference. So everybody has hypersonics. The difference between what people had that was really crazy was maneuverable hypersonic. Almost every ballistic missile is hypersonic. I did not realize that, and that was a I guess a hole in my knowledge. I'm not an expert on these things. But I guess I could correct this, because before I've said that they had hypersonics and we didn't. We have hypersonics. Everybody has hypersonics. A lot of people have hypersonics. But what they were talking about was maneuverable hypersonics. Hypersonic missiles and craft that can essentially maneuver, which makes them extremely hard to target and extremely hard to take down. Vlad was the first one to say that they basically had these hypersonic vehicles that could also deliver a hypersonic missile, and that vehicle could actually maneuver, turn, last minute, all sorts of things. And at that same time, they said that they had a submarine launched torpedo that would be its own submarine and that could maneuver as well. Whereas the old torpedoes, it would just have like a motor. It would go straight. They would have to be looking at their target to launch it and to put it straight into something. Now they have essentially these drones that are also missiles that are nuclear powered, and they can just go. They could keep going. They could go all the way around the world twice in the ocean and hit their target. So now the game has changed as far as the weapon systems are becoming more advanced, and now war is changing. The entire landscape of conflict is changing. So I would like to get some experts on the show. We're changing things around so we can have more guests, some folks that know a whole lot more than I do, and have them, I guess, educate people on what they think of what is going on. By the way, I guess I didn't realize he has like a straight up Homer comb over. If you have that little over there, just cut it right there. And then before we talk about nuclear strike would be an incredibly serious mistake, President B warns Russia. Before we talk about that, I do want to remind you, our whole show is actually brought to you by Energy. And again, my whole show is running on a Flex 1500. If you have not seen this unit before, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. This is a solar generator. This is an awesome system because it is modular. It literally works like Legos. All of the batteries have the input and the output on the top and the bottom so they can stack. You can actually make stacks as high as 5, and you can connect them and extend up to 96 batteries. So if you want power for 2 days or for months, you can pretty much do that. So again, go over and check this out. They have all sorts of cool mods that can be added in or sandwiched in between. The one that they just showed you there, that's actually a unit that can be put in the middle that will increase the amount of solar panels you can plug in from 4 to actually 12. So that is really, really, really an awesome system. That means that you basically cut your charge time in a third. Also, what's really special about this one is it is, of course, silent. It is absolutely silent. No one's going to hear this from a block away or 3 blocks away. If you've ever lost your power, you know every single person in your neighborhood with a generator. If an SHTF situation really does happen, or even a really bad natural disaster, you don't want people knowing that you are the only one with power, because people will come and try to grab it. This can also be run inside your home. This can also be run, I've literally taken it and put it in the front seat of my truck and charged things. So again, make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. It's one of the coolest and highest quality machines out there, and it is the only solar generator you can get an EMP shield for. Again, there is an EMP shield that's made directly for this. It's specifically for the Flex 1500. They make sure to use the code Marfoogle. You'll get upwards of $170 off, and you'll be helping our channel grow. So thank you again for anybody that has ordered this. There's a waiting list. Lithium is now in high demand and in low supply. This is because the entire world is about to depend on lithium. They're trying to switch everything to electric cars and all of this. Whether the debate about that is in, whether the verdict is in about if that's a good thing or not, one thing you know is lithium is going to be in higher and higher and higher demand, which means the prices and inflation and everything else that's going up, you would definitely want to get this sooner than later. Not to mention, there is a waiting list on this, so if you do want to get one ASAP, then I would highly recommend going over there. In December, they are shipping the the Kodiak X2. If you haven't checked this one out, make sure to go check that out. That's an all-in-one. I haven't experienced this one yet because it hasn't come out yet. But when it does come out, I will make sure to try to get my hands on one. These are definitely cool because they are touting 0 to 100% in 75 minutes and 6,000 charge cycles. All right, let's see here. So the president weighed in on this. Dex, do you want to go over this? This is obviously, I wonder if it's going to be, if anything he said is going to be walked back, within an hour.
Well, he certainly came out and made some statements specifically around whether or not tacticals would be used, and if it should, and he was saying that would be a very serious mistake. They were asking about the dirty conversation that's been going on that Shogu and others had been talking to every country about for the last 3 days, trying to stir up that notion that may be happening from the other side. And in response to that, he said it would be it would not be a wise thing for them to use tactical. He didn't say. I thought it was kind of odd. Sometimes he just doesn't speak right. But they were asking him directly about that, and he referred to tactical. But I think the point being is, no matter what, as our leader or administrator, he is there to say that, Vlad shouldn't be doing these things and they shouldn't be happening. So that's just another voice, another big voice in this position in the field right now, because what we've got is a giant finger pointing game going on, and an event hasn't even happened yet. So they're all sort of up in arms over this thing that's supposed to happen, but everybody wants to point the finger at the other person for doing it.
Dex, did you see that they just kind of fit in there? President B, who received an updated CV booster on Tuesday. What does that have to do with the story? Like, that was beforehand. Are they going to say, like, who just got out of the restroom? Like, you know, who ate toast this morning? What does that have to do with this story? Do you see my point here? You know, who had he had a physical exam 2 hours before we talked to him, and that has a lot to do with what this story has been saying here. I mean, do people not realize that the words that they fit into things? It's media. That's why we talk about it and question it. Why did they add that? That doesn't. Yeah. It says, let me just say, Russia would be making a serious mistake for its use of tactical nuclear weapon. I'm not guaranteeing you that it's a. And he says this. This is our president saying, Fantastic Freddy operation yet. I don't know, but it would be serious mistake. There's got to be a good meme of just two people pointing at each other like he did it, she did, like 2 5-year-olds and a broken cookie jar, and they're like, they're both saying that they're both going to do it. And what freaks me out is they're both saying it's going to happen, and they're both trying to set the blame before it even happens. It seems to me like everything they've done this on, and especially if they have said something is going to happen, then it's going to happen. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat below. Thank you, Big Fish. Says Diamonds, thank you. Ami Jean, 83. Thanks, Marf and Dex and Foogle fam. Y'all are awesome. Thank you for the loyal people over on DLive that come every single night. Thank you, Jammer, and thank you, Chance, for modding. Wonder Woman, if you're in there. And then thank you, everybody that just joined us on Rumble. Lots of new people over there as well. Let's see. Rumble. Kay Parker Frazier, thank you again. Emily Hillard, thank you again. Joseph Newhouse, I think I missed you, didn't I? Joseph Newhouse, good job on your last video there. And then I Love Jesus Forever, thank you. I appreciate the super sticker. Trilicit Stylist says, wish I could give more. Later for sure. Love all. Trilicit, no worries. And what a interesting name. Liz Smith, again, thank you. And Saren, what is going on? Thank you for joining us and subscribing. UKR's Atomic Watchdog says it assumes that Vlad is preparing a T attack, right? An act of terrorism. It says new Putin dirty boom boom warning. UKR's Atomic Watchdog says it assumes. You know what they say about people that assume? I'll just zoom in, and it makes an out of you. Why won't you highlight? It makes an out of and me. Do you get it? And it says that the Vlads are preparing a T attack using nuclear materials and radioactive waste at occupied power plants. Could contaminate hundreds of square miles. It's not funny what they're actually doing. I don't know if it's going to be an act carried out or who's going to carry it out, but it seems to me like it's going to happen at some point. I don't know why the watchdogs are saying this. Dex, what do you think? Do you think it's kind of too much pointing in one direction for it not to happen.
They're all pointing and they're stretching and they're looking. But they do have one valid point. You've got the nuclear power plant that they have control of, and there's something like 174 containers of dry spent fuel storage there. And each of those contain 24 assemblies of spent nuclear fuel. So that's the type of stuff that could be used. So that's one point they're making. It could be a valid point, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not coming with any evidence other than saying, hey, they control that now. And they have been controlling it for a long time. And, oh, by the way, all that stuff is sitting there. They could just grab it at any moment and use it.
I guess best case scenario is if UKR was saying, oh, they're going to do this, and Vlad is saying, no, we're not going to do it, and they're going to do it, and both people got bad information and nobody's going to do it. But how likely is that? Look at all the stuff so a lot of people think that Zelensky was some, obviously that there's some strings there above him, and what he ends up saying ends up happening, maybe because they want him to be respected. They want him to be the sex symbol profile picture dude, green shirt representative. I don't know. But what I do know is if you look at the previous things he said, a lot of them have come true in a matter of time. But it was basically, everybody didn't listen to him at the time of, and there's been this constant thing like, well, don't wait until after, do it now, right? And then they didn't, and then it gives them reason to donate later, or it gives them reason to give money later, or to possibly get us into World War III. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Remember, comment, and comment. Talk to your other community members down there. Again, comment is a huge thing. I love reading them. Please make sure to comment, especially if you're watching the replay. If there's 40,000 people watching the replay, remember to comment. It only takes a second. Say hello. Tell me happy birthday on the wrong day. I don't care. Just do it. Putin ally shuts down Russia's claim. UKR plans to unleash a DB. He's going to drop a dirty deuce, and now it says that Vlad is now taking its claim that Kiev is preparing to use a dirty boom boom in UKR as an act of provocation to some of Moscow's closest partner in India and in China. It says in an apparent attempt to shore up support, but the presentation has fallen flat. So again, I'm not trying to go against what they're saying here, but they don't actually say that. They don't say that this failed and that they don't believe them necessarily. It says, but they told this to India, but Singh wasn't having any of it. He was, they're making it like Singh is like, talk to the hand, the man don't understand, right? It says Singh said, Shogu, the nuclear option should not be resorted to in the conflict, according to the readout from India's defense ministry. The prospect of the usage of nuclear or radiological weapons goes against the basic tenets of humanity. If they're saying that the other guys, he's talking to Singh and he's saying, hey, these guys are going to use this, blah, 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 blah. And Singh replies and says, nobody should use it. It's against everything. No part of what I've seen so far says that they actually don't think he's telling the truth. It just says that's horrible. It's like telling somebody like what happened. They're like, oh gosh, that's horrible. I hope that doesn't happen. That's a horrible thing to do. So I don't get where they say things and they're basically, because why this is important is it tells you that India is saying that they don't believe it. Out of all of the text I read and the transcript, it doesn't look like that's exactly what they're saying. They're just basically saying that's not a good thing to do. They're also not saying that it's you that it's going to do it. So this, Dex, did you catch that? Like, out of all the text they put out, and the transcript doesn't say anything about them actually. Did you see a part that said that they were didn't believe it?
No, it's not there at all. I mean, at least in the quotes they use to try to back up the claim that the author is writing here, it has nothing to do with saying that, that he's shutting down their claim. He didn't shut down their claim. He just said he made a PR statement, a neutral PR statement. Yes, doing those things would be bad. Not, oh my gosh, that's really going to happen and they're doing that. I believe you. Thank you for the warning, no, you must be out of your mind. You're loony bin. He didn't say either of those two things. He just made a neutral statement, and a neutral statement is not, as the headline says, ally shuts down Vlad.
Okay, but you realize what they're doing here, right? If somebody has an argument at the office and they say, well, Vlad said this, and then somebody comes back and says, no, from what I heard, even India says that that's fake. But it's going to reference this article, and then they're going to go to a fact checker, and the fact checker is going to reference an article like this at, say, Snopes, and Snopes will say false, that UKR hasn't done this, and even it will quote the Indian defense, or it won't even quote the Indian defense minister. It will quote this article quoting the Indian defense minister, put this little part in here, and then make it look like that India says it's even BS, right? It's funny how they use these articles with a headline like this and with a quote that's not the actual defense minister saying that Singh isn't having any of it. And when we say that in our American language, that's basically like he's not believing any of that BS. He didn't say anything to the fact. So that's blatant just making up stuff. The transcript doesn't show him ever saying that I don't believe UKR is doing that. Never once in there does it say that. Not once. So this entire article is just swaying people's narrative. It's swaying a narrative without actual evidence. So it's great when the MSM just literally doesn't have anything to back up the actual headline. That's Putin ally shuts down Vlad's claim. How did they shut it down? They just said a neutral statement that using nukes is bad. It shouldn't take a small channel like mine to point out that these big media people they're not even doing anything. They're not using anything. Anybody can write something like this. Just take things out of context, and then they will use an article like that in Snopes to then back it up. That's how this game works. Starlink's survivability in conflict is a good sign for DoD's future constellation. So, Dex, by the way, the Operation Starfall, I don't know if we have an update on that. I covered Operation Starfall when it came out, and Operation Starfall was this secondary kind of thing. If we lose all communications, they would launch these balloons. The U.S. government has a mission or a operation. It's called Operation Starfall, which is creepy in itself. But these balloons would be launched with basically a satellite, but the satellite would be, just basically floating at the top where the weather balloons are, and it would be able to bounce a signal from one place to the other. They put this bill in, I believe, that was like the Operation Starfall already exists. The stuff exists to do it, but the bill basically puts it into play, and it has to be built, blah, 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 and everything has to be done in 45 days from when it passes. Or within 45 days, it's got to be up in the air. So I don't think it's actually gone through yet, but it's just sitting there. People think that means it doesn't exist. Operation Starfall already exists. It's the use of it has to be approved, and I bet you they could put it through in a day if they needed to through some sort of emergency way to do that. Starlink then was starting out when that was first talked about. I don't know if it would be like an Operation Starfall replacement, or they would work in tandem or work together. But basically, they're saying that Starlink could survive in a big conflict. Dex, you want to explain what they're saying about why this is good for DoD?
Yeah, they're basically drawing a correlation that Elon moved a bunch of satellites in for Starlink over UKR, and it's now been the lifeline for all the communication over there, for military, for everything. And they're saying that while Vlad has often said, oh, we can take out satellites, and he's even demonstrated once that he was able to take out a low Earth orbiting satellite, he hasn't actually done it. And you would think that this line of communication and combat is one of those that you would do, just like you would take out, radio towers, telephone, backhaul lines, any of that stuff that would help communicate. That's what you go after in a conflict. So they're basically trying to say, because he hasn't done it, then that maybe really means he can't do it. And if he can't do it, it means that when the DoD puts theirs up, that they'll probably not have a lot of trouble with Vlad, because obviously he can't do it. Now, I don't know if he just hasn't done it yet or if he really can't do it. So it's one of those kind of, scenarios that they're trying to make it sound like, oh yeah, look, he's so weak, he can't even do it.
I wonder if he called.
It could be one of those he's holding back.
Well, you remember just a couple weeks ago, Elon Musk went on his Twitter and said, well, hey, take a vote. Should we actually just give Vlad some of the land? Maybe split it 50-50 and just kind of give him some of the country. Remember? And everybody got mad at him. He was somewhat in support of like a negotiation and saying like, hey, well, just give him Donetsk and blah, blah, blah. Isn't that what he did?
Yeah, I think he said let the people in those areas vote and let them keep certain territories. But yes.
I wonder if Vlad called him and said, hey, I'm going to knock every Starlink out of the sky. Yeah. And then he was saying, oh, maybe we should give him some. Just give him a little bit. I don't think they could knock every one of them out. There's 60. How many are they launching? They're launching 60 every month or something. And aren't they smaller? I would think that would be harder to hit, especially when one of their actual satellite, their ways to take them out is an actual ballistic missile, where that's what they said they tested. And then I want to say Russia also has a clamp on another satellite that can clamp down on a satellite, or was that China? It was one of the two, but I think now both have that technology. So a satellite would go up and basically get right next to another one, and a big robotic claw would crush it and turn it into scrap metal essentially, and then that scrap metal would start spinning around, and it could cause a domino effect that would knock out other satellites. I wonder if it would take that much to take out Starlink if they're all kind of in the same orbit or whatever. I don't know.
Well, they're all fragile. When you think about it, like they're ultra lightweight. They're not necessarily built, they're not built with armor protective coatings or anything like that, right? They're supposed to be as light as possible, use as little energy as possible, and perform their duty in the smallest footprint possible, because it's not like they have, they're not taking giant trucks up to space where they can just haul anything they want up there. So any of those things could probably be easily completely disabled with the strike of a hammer, and not even thinking about breaking it into a whole bunch of pieces. You just got to break one thing on it and it probably quits working, right? So but then the flip side is the redundancy, and your point of there are a lot of them. So when there's 60 up there, you got to take 60 out. Maybe if you took 10 out, maybe the internet's a little slower, but they still have it, right? You'd have to take out a significant number, and those numbers are only growing. It seems like they're launching more and more, every month, and I think they have a really staggering number they're going to get up there in the not too distant future. Plus, the DoD's got their own that they're doing that's very similar.
Yeah, so we'll follow what ends up happening, but my opinion is that any bad thing that's going to happen, whether it's satellites getting knocked out or or any kind of massive attack or T thing, it's going to happen all of a sudden, and people are going to get caught off guard. As far as something in the next couple of weeks, it won't affect all of us, but it will be the kickoff to something much bigger. That's my opinion. Jeff P. says, Search Google News, died suddenly movie. Guys, go look at that comment. I believe that's referencing the adult sudden whatever syndrome. I highly, if that's what it's referencing, I highly recommend you follow that comment. Jeff P., by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but we added you to the friends list on marfooglenews.com/friends. Of course, the very top, which I forgot at the beginning of the show, if you haven't seen any of the creators in the Foogle fam, we have lots of great, really creative creators in our Foogle family, especially in the mods. We've got Bones, CJ Blaze, Jammer1, Lisa R. Hall, one of the sweetest people in the world, PNW Affliction, aka Chance Paladin. He's an author. He's got published books on Amazon. And then, of course, Rip Kroll Readiness does amazing work. He does great videos. On the ground, kind of videotaping where it is. And then RJL Harris, Survival Game, does an awesome survival game most Saturdays, sometimes Sundays. She is, again, if you guys can, make sure to go check out her channel. Right now, I would highly recommend, if you like Aliyah and Survival Game, make sure to go check out her recent videos. She has a tortoise that is in trouble right now. So make sure to go check that out. She has a video about it. Apparently, it's going to need some surgery, so she could use your positive prayers. And yeah, she's got a great short there going. And then on the friends page, we have all of these awesome people like Jeff P. and Jacob Israel and Global Witness, Donut Factory. If you guys haven't checked out him, did he hit? He didn't go down, did he? He's almost at 100,000. No, he went up 1,000. You guys get Donut Factory to 100,000. He's a good guy. Make sure to go check him out. He does symbolism. He does all sorts of really, really interesting stuff. And then, of course, Bible Talk 777, all sorts of great people. Mr. MB33, The Lifeboat, Justin True, Official Ann Lynn. So many great channels over there. And those are all channels that we vouch for and think are great people. All right. And then Snap CEO Evan Spiegel blasts the metaverse. The last thing I want to do when I get home from work during a long day is live inside of a computer. It says Snap CEO Evan Spiegel slammed Mark Zuckerberg's vision for the metaverse on Tuesday at a conference with the Wall Street Journal. The metaverse is living inside of a computer. The last thing I want to do when I get home from work during a long day living inside of a computer. It says, over the past year, Zuckerberg has overhauled Facebook into Meta with precisely that vision. One of a world where people connect in a digital universe using avatars. The Facebook founder just spent $15 billion so far on the project and has said that one day Metaverse will be the way that people interact with the world. I also wonder, too, if they know, like, if another CV or something like that would happen. That would definitely move that a whole lot quicker. But it says that, but Spiegel doesn't see it that way. The Snap founder, I'm assuming, again, the Snapchat, chosen to focus his company on expanding into augmented reality versus virtual reality. While VR takes the individual into a completely digitally recreated landscape, AR combines computer-generated content with the real world. So, by the way, that's kind of deceiving because I know that Zuckerberg is planning a huge thing into AR as well. The VR, the newer headsets that they are designing, the like 1 or 2 out, they are also going to have cameras that are going to see the real world and are going to put that in. So just so you know, Zuckerberg is working on that as well, and that's what we're talking about when people are selling digital landscape. Say you own a tire shop on 4th Street in Philadelphia or something. Well, you may own the actual land that your tire shop is on, but somebody else may have already purchased the digital rights to your land. And by that, when people are driving down the street, they've got their special glasses on, and they're not only seeing the real world, but almost like Google Maps, they're seeing directions, and they're also seeing billboards that are put up and paid for. Some advertisers paying whoever owns your tire shop's land, and they're paying to put up a digital billboard on somebody's screen or on somebody's contacts. That's AR, like where you're driving in the real world and you see digital things, just like out of all the movies. Pretty much, I mean, like Idiocracy and all of these futuristic versions of the world. That's what they're talking about. I do understand that people are not going to want to go into VR, but that's also assuming that something bad doesn't happen to where we have to be in VR to do this, or where nobody wants to leave their house anymore. The level of convenience that people want now. People are getting so lazy, they just want things to get put in their mouth. I'm surprised there's not a drone service that not only brings you McDonald's, but literally flies it into your mouth. That's probably next. We could call it like, I don't know, Float Mouth or something. Sounds like a band from the 90s, but whatever. It will work. By the way, taking investors right now for Float Mouth. Dex, go ahead.
Well, this Meta thing and Zuck's plans have worked so well. He lost his head of the company, Cheryl, left this year. His stock value, or his company's value, has lost 2/3 of its entire value just this year. And its numbers just came out today at the end of the day, and they plummeted in after hours because their numbers for the quarter were horrible. So obviously the market itself is not reacting positively to him, whether it's the tech that he's building or the ideas that he's doing or the way he's doing it. The market being both consumers wanting to spend money with him, advertisers wanting to place ads with him, and in this case, the market after the fact that want to invest in him are all running for the hills.
Well, I think it is the future, and I don't care if a bunch of social media says that it's lame. People are saying that the art looks bad and the graphics look corny, but everything starts out that way. And by the way, when you're in it, I've been in VR, and the newest VR, even if it's bad graphics, because you are inside of it, your brain makes you think that it's a whole different experience when your eyes start adjusting to it, and it starts feeling like you're in this world. Most kids have played the Rec Room thing, and Rec Room is super bad, like avatars with no legs floating around, and that one, you can feel like you're picking up a digital ball and throwing it. It's not the VR of yesterday. Even the bad graphics make you feel like you're inside something. You can lose track of time. It's really it's incredible, and it's scary at the same time. And then before we move on to our last story, I do want to remind you, if you don't have long-term survival food, we have a resource for you and somewhere we recommend. We are also going to have more recommendations in the future for those of you who want to branch out and diversify your food. But for right now, I would highly recommend going over and checking out My Patriot Supply, because they have one of the most affordable packages for a 3-month supply. Most people know that DHS and others have suggested that every American should have 6 months to a year worth of food. And if you think about it, it's quite a daunting task, because that's a whole lot of food to try to get together, and that's a whole lot of money. What's great about My Patriot Supply is with the 20% off you get with our code, you actually can get a pretty good price when you break it down to, of course, 90 days of food. It's actually a really great deal. Go over to marfooglenews.com/prep, and they also have all sorts of other deals going. And then you can get just a 72-hour kit. If you just want a 3-day kit that you want to put in your bag so you can eat and, of course, live, then that is definitely a great option. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Also, make sure to check out all of the other things they have on there. They do have iodide tablets, of course, if you want to get some of those. They also have the Alexa Pure Pro. It is a Berkey competitor that is at a fraction of the cost and does all of the same stuff. It's in my opinion, I think it's superior, but people have their brand name, their opinions on that kind of stuff. But the Alexa Pure works great for me. Make sure to go to marfooglenews.com/prep. And again, that's marfooglenews.com/prep. And then Japan steps up push to get public buy-in to digital IDs. Japan has stepped up its push to catch up on digitalization by telling reluctant public that they have to sign up for digital IDs or possibly lose access to their public health insurance. Basically, if you want to live a long, full life, then you better get digital. As the naming implies, the initiative is about assigning numbers to people. Biblical in a way, don't you think? Similar to the Social Security numbers in the U.S., many Japanese worry the information might be misused or that their personal information might be stolen. Some view the My Number effort as a violation of their right to privacy. So the system that kicked off in 2016 has never fully caught on. Fax machines are still commonplace, and many Japanese conduct much of their business in person with cash. Sounds like my kind of country there. Japan sounds awesome. They have fax machines? Like, man, I want to go back in time. Some bureaucratic procedures can be done online, but many Japanese offices still require inkan, or seals, for stamping, for identification, and insist on people bringing paper forms to offices. But here's the thing. Now the government is asking people to apply for plastic My Number cards equipped with microchips and photos to be linked to the driver's licenses and the public health insurance plans. Health insurance cards now in use, which lack photos, will be discontinued in late 2024. The entire world is doing this. They are trying to get rid of anybody that is off record, anybody that has any kind of privacy. And I still don't get why people say, well, like, I don't care. I'm not a criminal. I don't care about my privacy. If they want to see me naked in my, I'm a 60-year-old lady. They don't want to see me naked. This is the wrong attitude to have. With tech, people just assume like, oh, well, we've got to take all of these things with the convenience. There's ways to go into the next decade, into the next century, and still keep our privacy. We're human beings. Remember that. We are human beings, and we should be able to live our lives freely without somebody breathing down our neck. Of course, none of us do. We all have, two things we can rely on is death and taxes, but this is part of it. They want this because they want more people to be on it. The Banking for All Act here and all of the other things that are going on in the world, they are trying to get everybody on this digital system. Dex, it's no surprise they're doing this, but I think that I did not know that about Japan, though. That's actually kind of cool that they do.
I didn't either.
That's cool.
Yeah, I had no clue they didn't have some sort of equivalent to a social security number or some sort of identification. And it's not so much that it's a microchip; they don't even have it in analog form. Like we've had it in analog form forever, right? It's still scary to think about us going digital, but even things like our real IDs and all that stuff that we get on driver's licenses now, all that stuff is basically getting to that next level. But we're way beyond where they are. They're back in the Stone Ages, so to speak, when it comes to having the system be able to track everyone.
They're probably just learning about AOL Instant Messenger. Man, I want to go back there just for nostalgia reasons. I'm going to go to the... Hold on, it's loading. I think he's going to the store. No. Yep, he's going to the store. Hold on. What do you want me to type back? Hold on. It froze. You guys remember it. All right. Well, the world is ending. Let's have a fun time. Doomsday says LOL. Perfect name. Belinda Golk's legit the index finger typing. The Hunt and Peck. Niall Adamson and bought a Berkey bought the Alexa filters for replacement. Oh, wow. So you bought the Berkey and the Alexa Pure's work in the Berkey? Hey, I bet you they're cheaper. Let's hear Geo Huff, a Hobbit, Liz Smith, that Gen X dude, last common sense generation. Man, you guys gotta look up the video of high school in 2002. And well, in fact, you can look up the high school in 90s, but there was more video of like the 2000s, and that's right before all of the social media took in. And you can go 90s on YouTube. There's this whole niche of people that have posted high school videos, and it seems kind of weird because you're watching high school or whatever. But it is such a trip because it's high school. And everybody, if you went to a public high school, you remember, like, it was different. People weren't caught up in, if you look at a high school now, when I visited I visited my daughter's school, and in 10th grade, down the hallways, there's still like the lockers and stuff, but nobody uses them. They're not even using their lockers. They had some sort of security reason for that, but everybody was just walking with their cell phones. Everybody's like this. And it's sad. It's super sad. And it's cliche by now because everybody knows, like, oh, well, we've got phones now. But it's permanently changed us as human beings. Technology is not I don't think it's a good thing. And I think we won't find out for many, many years. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, instant messaging for us back then was a folded piece of paper with check yes or no, right?
It was a paper airplane. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, instant messaging was yelling it really loud. Hey, you coming tonight? No? Cool. Corded telephones. We should just do a whole show on that, man. Not on corded telephones,
or
but
the
just
25-foot or 30-foot long cord that you would take all the way down the hall into your bedroom so you could have some privacy. And then things like wrapped around the sofa, and down, it's going everywhere. Everybody trips over it when they come through.
You could track it.
Or if you're really cool, you saved up and you got your own phone line, and you were like the cool kid.
No.
Line.
The see-through transparent phone that you could see the primitive chips inside, and they were neon colored, and every teenage girl had one. You could track your teenager by just following the cord all the way up the stairs. Or when people used to pick up the phone when you were on the phone. When I was a teenager, I would always have my aunt pick up the phone. She was like my mom, and you're talking to a girl, you're 13, you're like, oh man, that was so crazy when we hold hands, and you remember when my pinky touched your pinky, and it was really cool. And then your aunt or your mom would pick up and be like, hello, and then start dialing. It would be like, beep, beep, beep. Mom, I'm on the phone. Gosh. Okay, well, I've got your nuggets. I've got your nuggets in the oven. All right, get off the phone soon, honey. Dinner's ready. All right, I think that's a good point to leave on. Dex, let's go over the web only. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. MarfoogleNews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show and scroll down to that yellow bar. You get to the overflow content. Everything else we couldn't get to tonight in the show, it's all right there. If you're on YouTube or
sorry, the party lines.
Yeah. You get multiple people with three-way, and you get them all to three-way each other, and then you could get like a whole lot of people on the phone. That was before the original party lines was the three-way, right? Three-way calling. I love it.
And then your mom picks up the phone. What are you on? Is this charging?
Totally crashes it.
Is this a 1-800 number? Okay, sorry.
Oh, and what were those pay numbers that people used to call?
No, it was 900. No, 900 was paid
or something, or what? Yeah. Whoa, man, I heard some horror stories about people racking up bills on that.
The psychics,
even for chat lines and stuff. All right, well, let's get back to it. There's a lot going on. So some of the entertainment kind of stuff, or the crazy kind of stuff we've talked about with Kanye, is still going on. Look at this. He walks into Skechers unannounced, and they escorted him out. So I guess he thought he was going to go get another shoe line. Sounds like he's while he's being dumped, there's also some opportunity apparently for him to stay on Spotify, which was kind of interesting. I heard that as well. So there's a lot of updates on the whole Kanye story. That thing is for some reason going to continue to be in the space, and probably rightfully so, because there's a lot of controversy over it. So if you're interested in it, it's there. The updates on things like savings accounts, and there's some new reports that have come out on America's savings, or therefore a lack of, which I'm sure you and I and we all know very well, because it's not like we're sitting around with just tons of money in the bank. We're all living paycheck to paycheck. that statistic that's come out. It's kind of interesting. So go take a look. You can see where the rest of America is, because it doesn't look really pretty. Some fisticuffs going on at some events, especially around the political side. That's kind of scary. We'll see if that stuff starts to amp up or if it's just a one-off kind of thing. A whole lot of the other political coverage is there as well. Elon shows up to Twitter, a couple days early. I think he's supposed to take it over on Friday. But he brings in a sink. He comes walking in carrying a sink. I don't know the meaning of that. I didn't go into detail, but if you want to go into detail, go take a look. Some other updates on him as well. And then some stuff going on for people that are trying to quit smoking, and whether or not they think the mushrooms can help them. So that and so much more. I didn't even give you all of it. So if you're looking for the rest of the news, go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or on YouTube and the Umble. Just look for the show notes link right there in the description. It'll take you right here.
I miss the nice phone booths too. If you know the nice phone booths with like the curtains, right? If that's the ones you're talking about, or the Denny's phone booths that like you went to the bathroom and there was the phone booths that you had like some privacy. You even had a little seat you could sit there and talk. It was really quite weird when the phone booths all started disappearing and it got harder and harder to find. And I just remember, because not everybody had a cell phone. Pagers were the first kind of thing, and everybody had a pager at one point. 911, everything that you did was, and hello. Everybody knew the numbers to say hello. Such a lame system, but that's what it evolved into, this craziness that we have now, where, you're video chatting with people just wherever. Think about how fast, though. That's the scary part. Think about how fast this has moved forward in just that short amount of time. Think about this. We just got electricity a couple of 3 or 4 generations ago, and now in less than one generation, it's just boom, it's gone hyperspeed. And now we're talking about AI robots replacing us. Like, all of these movies that showed our nasty future, it's here, it's coming. And the reason why there's so many horror films that show that is because it's a real scenario. It's something that could happen. Well, thank you, Dex. And then go ahead, Dex.
Hey, speaking of AI bots, it just got me thinking of a story we were talking about earlier about the military and enlisting. And if there's not enough people to enlist, I wonder if they will ramp up the move towards these militarized bots to replace people.
Yeah, if they don't hit their... They purposely...
That'll happen.
What if they purposely don't want their recruitment numbers, so then they have an excuse to go to Congress and go, hey, we need these AI bots or we're going to fall behind. We're going to lose to China. We're going to lose to Russia if we don't have these AI bots. And some general goes, oh, our war games show that we're going to die unless we have these Terminators. By the way, look at the video. I think it's called Skynet in real life, but Skynet is a real thing, by the way. They named it Skynet. I have no idea why these people are so insane, but look up YouTube Skynet. Just look up Skynet. That's an interesting rabbit hole to go down. Thank you, Dex. I appreciate your service so much.
Much love.
And then
great job, brother.
All of the mods, make sure to go check out their channels. Thank you for all of the mods that made it tonight. I appreciate you guys. We will see you in just a second. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. super thanks. Yeah, bring it down and with the killers on iron. No, 25 days left. This isn't visit to the sand. I'll bring it down now. Yeah. Hey, I with the me, I'm me, I'm oh, Yellowstone grown in the true iris and the Vulcan on the axe and the blue speedy spray again. Don't know vats on the OVATs. Everybody gonna call Kovacs. With the Ebenezer's dome, it's a Jamie. Hope we are gifted and the kitty clean. A lot and a crusader in the BFI with the Phil Billy and the Enigma. With the wrench and the winch and the horse and the gun. Last beat and the monkey, the PP. With the dune foil hat, a Carmen Patrack. Black sheep, bad Genix, dude, good to see you. Don Bali, thank you all so much. I have watched for 2 years, never missed a show. I have learned so much. A Pictures 421 loves it in the dance party. Everybody gonna get it down now, real hardy. I with the lace and blade. Last resort, stop and a run Nick. With the sharp stick, or maybe it's hard, doesn't really matter. Really got a grip, yeah. Oh, nah, I'll back up with the wiggle. I got it on nigga, everybody gonna tickle. I'll recalcitrate and everybody rain and never cur. Oh, Anthony with the Anthony Jagger. With the pirates paradise. Alert Adam, stealth bomber fly low over Olympia, Washington. I have seen some crazy stuff myself. Mama, I'm a sixing in the Gale Firestorm. A survival game and everybody a norm. Bring it down and back and run and do it no harm. On Geo hopping by beer emoji in the barn. Maybe I'm a high end and smoking behind the barn. Ebenezer's droning in it on the farm. Oh, now, I with the Ebenezer's drone. Everybody gonna do it, maybe alone. Honda Texas sounds like my phone. You just gave me an idea. Let's see. Hunting and pecking.